Well, hey you, and welcome back to another episode of the Miss Michaela Mae Show. I'm your host, Miss Michaela Mae, here with my corgis, Tank and Willie. So if you hear some paws in the background, it's a corgi. And today, I'm going to segue a little bit before we dive into the episode. I feel like I have not talked to you in a minute. The last couple episodes I had pre-recorded, I'd batched prior to Thanksgiving, so I didn't have to. I really wanted to take Thanksgiving week off. So I had batch recorded those, and then the episode that was supposed to be live on Monday, we had some technical difficulties, and I am working on some editing magic in the background, so it took a little longer to get out than expected. But I'm really excited to share that with you because my friend Landon was back on the show, and I may or may not have watched Batman Begins and The Dark Knight for the first time over Thanksgiving. And so we did a deep dive on that. And again, talked about, the technical stuff, but then also the personal development stuff that I talk about and how I use movies as I think I'm going to call it a healing hack. I was going to call it a personal development hack, but it's like a self-help, self-growth healing hack. I'm still working on the wording, but I love alliteration. So healing hack sounds really fun to me. So we're probably going to go with that. And so we're a little late on this episode, and I honestly was just going to wait till Monday, but this episode was really on my heart, and I wanted to get it out to you. It'll be Thursday when this episode goes live, because this is something that was really plaguing me and was really felt like just, when you have those things in your life where it just feels like a thorn in your side, the never-ending story, the thing that the vein of your existence, if you will. And this was something that actually, it was just a week before I started the show, so end of October, that I had a perspective shift that really shifted things for me. And I wanted to share that with you today in case you're in the same spot that I was in just a few short months ago. And that is that you're not lazy. And there is two other problems that are creating the laziness, quote unquote, but the laziness is not actually the problem. It's a side effect of these two things. And the reason that I wanted to share this with you today is because I actually think what is lazy is accusing somebody of something without question. Because as I've been on my own healing journey the last few years, and when I was in my personal development era a few years prior to that, it started in 2017, I believe, was when I consciously picked up my first self-help book, which was The Subtle Art of Not Giving a. And the thing that Mark Manson, I think, did so brilliantly is you didn't really know you were getting into self-help. You just thought it was some guy being funny. And the next thing you know, he's making you, for me, question everything in my life. I'm like, what is going on here, Mark? But I say consciously because prior to that, I'd been into Dave Asprey's work. And I think Dave is really good about blending the biohacking with mind hacking and like healing hacking, whether he does so intentionally or not. I think his last couple books, the heavily meditated, Smarter Not Harder, were more intentional. But even prior to, when he had the bulletproof diet and things like that, he was always weaving in self-help. And really what Dave did for me was get me to start asking different questions. So I say technically since 2000, or like consciously since 2017, but technically I probably got started on this in like 2014. And if we really wanted to dive in, I technically got started around like 2008, 2009, when like after I experienced sexual assault with the person I was taking horseback riding lessons from. We could technically, I could say I started there but my whole goal and why I joke about that is really my only goal was to not hate the bastard was my goal. So I did start learning how, okay, we can change things, but I didn't know what I was doing. I felt like my hate for him had so much power over me, and I hated that something outside of me had power over me. And so one day I was clenching my jaw so hard that I had chipped a tooth. And that was kind of my breaking moment of I have to do something. And so that was my first like self-development process, I suppose you could say, is just let's not hate the bastard because I like my teeth and I don't really want to chip another one. All of that to say, the thing that I have learned throughout the years is our bodies, our minds, our emotions, our psyche, everything has a reason for doing things. And so what I think is actually lazy is when we accuse, again, ourselves or someone else of something without question of like, I wonder why their body would create that. I wonder why their mind would create that. That's really interesting. Let's dive a little deeper. And the irony is, and for most of us, most likely, all of us, hint, hint, is the person we accuse the most is ourselves, right? The person that we are hardest on is ourselves. And sometimes that comes out on other people, but when we really boil it down, it's going to be something about how we feel about ourselves. And so about the second to last week of October, again, prior to me starting this podcast, I was just really being hard on myself about how lazy I felt. And I remember I was sitting in my room because I was journaling. And whenever I'm just really stuck on something, for me, I tend to have a very busy brain. And so it's really helpful for me to just get things out on paper, just free write and let myself go completely unfiltered. And so I'm journaling and I'm asking myself, like, Michaela, you know yourself. And I always, and I do find this to be another like healing hack, if you will, is to talk to yourself in third person, because it allows you to get some objectivity that we don't have when we're using words like I. And so I'll talk to myself in third person, again, really trying to pull myself out of those clouds and get some objectivity of, okay, Michaela, you know yourself better than anyone. Are you actually lazy? Like, if you're telling yourself the full truth, no bullshit, what is it? Are you actually lazy? I'm not. I tend to lean, this is something I've had to work on. I tend to lean towards being a bit of a workaholic. And there are things I like to do and there are things I don't like to do. But if I really put my mind to it, I'm not lazy. I can, again, lean more to the other side where I'm actually working too much as an avoidance tactic is what I will tend to lean into. And so I sat with that and I was like, okay, I'm not actually lazy. So if that is not what I'm doing, what is actually wrong? Like, what is wrong? And it really came down to a couple of things. And this is the whole point of this episode, is you're not lazy. You're either uninterested. And when we are uninterested, what I find is that we are trying to live by too many of other people's rules and not living by our own rules and doing things the way that we want to do them. Because it's not just what we're doing, it's how we're doing it that can really change if we have the pull and the desire and the fire to, and Tony Robbins, I really like this term, so I'm going to throw this in there as well, would say like hunger to go do it. So that was the first thing that I really pinged on that felt good to me, is that I was uninterested, how I was doing. Because when I sat with it and again, asked myself, like, are you doing the wrong thing? Do you, like, if you need permission to just throw the towel in on what you're doing, the podcast, building your social media, writing books, like, throw the towel in and go do something you love. Like, we only get one life. So if you've decided, like, I don't want to do this, like, don't, and just go do something else, but just be honest with yourself. This is something I will say over and over again, but the truth really does set us free. So if that is the truth for you, Michaela, you have permission, throw it away, go do something else, go be a barista, go just figure things out. And when I sat with that, I'm like, no, I don't, these are really big passions of mine, especially like writing books. Like I've dreamed of it since I was little. It's what, like when I'm driving, I'm thinking about writing, I'm thinking about books, I'm thinking about different ideas, I'm thinking about scripts I could write. Like if I had to like only do one thing with the rest of my life out of all the things that I do, it would be writing. So it's like, okay, I don't want to do that, or I don't want to stop that. Okay, like check. All right, that's good. Okay, then next. Okay, the podcast. Do you not want to podcast anymore? And again, I sat with that. I'm like, no, I love podcasting. I love talking. I love teaching. I love connecting with people through podcasting. I'm like, okay, so that's not going to be thrown away. And then back to the social media. It's like, do you really want it? And I do. There's just, I was having some blocks around it. And like, okay, so now that I have that, I actually really do want to do these things. What is my problem? And it boiled down to, I was uninterested. The way that I was doing it was not interesting to me. And that's what inspired me to start this second show, because ultimately what I wanted, and it's really interesting because again, like we have this mind chatter of the collective, listening to everyone else's rules of, only have one podcast, only focus on one thing at a time. But ultimately what I wanted is I wanted my podcast, The Western Hippie, to just be series of masterclasses on holistic healing protocols for dogs, horses. And then I do bring in some like physical stuff for the humans. I haven't done that yet, but I eventually, I'm actually pretty excited about this. I'm putting together the content for it now, like my favorite antibiotic alternatives that I use. And so, but I didn't want that to be as random. I actually wanted it to be really concise, because when I really thought about the Western Hippie, I want it to be its own brand, like similar to a Nike. I don't necessarily want to be the face of it, because I want it to be something that lives long after I am away from this earth. I want the supplement line to continue because that's my ultimate goal, is to create a line of supplements. And then you could go on the website and get like the proper protocol that's custom for you, your dog, or your horse. Like that's my ultimate goal. And so the randomness on that podcast didn't feel great because that brand has a different goal and a different mission, where a personal brand, like the episode that you're listening to now, is about me. Like when we have personal brands, it is about the person, right? It's like we come for the person. And so they can be random because we're there for the person, regardless of like what road they want to take. And so when I sat with that and I thought about it, I had so much excitement coming into my body. I had so much interest building in my body because I finally was giving myself permission to do what I wanted to do in the way that I wanted to do it. And so that, like, this podcast was up within the week of me having that. And I didn't even do the other piece that I'm going to tell you about. I just started building interest of doing the thing that I want to do. So that is the first thing that I want you to sit with, is if you are feeling lazy about something, if you are accusing yourself of being lazy about something, I want you to sit and get curious with yourself. Is laziness actually your problem? Like, if you have evidence of these other areas in your life where you're clearly not lazy, that is not your issue. Like if you go full send when you're at work, but you don't go full send with your personal stuff, the things that you really want to do, it's not a laziness issue. So just sit with that and ask that question for a minute. Like, how can I, and again, also, if you need to give yourself permission to throw it all away, the beautiful thing about that is for me, I felt that it just takes the pressure off of my shoulders. And when that pressure is gone, I feel like that's when we can give ourselves more permission. So if you also need to do that, please do so. Give yourself permission to, if you need to throw something away, throw it away. And then ask yourself, like, how can I build interest and how can I do this thing in the way that I truly want to do it? Like, if the thing that I really need to throw away is everybody else's rules, and how you can start to find, quote unquote, like what everyone else's rules are, pay attention to when you say the word should. So that's what I was doing. Oh, I should be doing my podcast this way. I should be doing my book this way. I should be doing XYZ. And if there's a should, more than likely that is a rule from someone or something else. It's not actually your rule, because our rules are more definitive. No, I want to do it this way. I am doing it this way. So you can start to look for that. And again, just asking yourself, like, how can you make it interesting? How can you make it exciting? And that interest will become the fuel to get you to do the thing that you are looking to do. Okay, so that is the first piece. And again, just doing that was enough for me to get this podcast rolling. The second thing is worth. You don't actually believe you are worthy or deserving of your dreams, of the things you want coming to fruition. And this is actually the piece that I am working on right now, because I find for myself personally, the interest can get things rolling, but it's the worth and the deservingness that will actually make something successful. Do you actually believe you're worthy or deserving of having the success you want in this area? And so this is what I'm working on now. And so you and I are very much, if you're on this piece as well, we're very much in the trenches together. It is really connecting to why we matter and why we are important in this world, and proving to our brain, because what happens is from 0 to 7 to 8, depending on someone's brain development, it's when the subconscious mind is forming and we are in a hypnotic state all the time. So we don't have the prefrontal cortex to be able to say, like, does this make sense? Is that really true? And so all this stuff just gets coded into our subconscious mind. And so for a lot of us, especially depending on how we grew up, we can develop the beliefs like, I'm not important, I don't matter, what I say or do doesn't make a difference. And now we have to start rewiring that, and that will help us feel worthy and deserving. So one of the things specifically with this podcast that I am working on rewiring in my brain is why my voice is important, why my voice is essential, and why I'm needed in this space. And so I will even just listen to other podcasts and say, actually, this is my take on it, and I want to say this take because I think it would be really helpful for someone. Case in point, this episode, I see so many people being accused by influencers, whatever, online of you just don't want it bad enough. Like if you wanted it bad enough, you would do it. That's not the problem. The problem is someone is either doing it in the wrong way or they don't believe they're worthy of doing the thing. So I'm always wondering, like, how can we treat the root cause and then the effect be the thing that we want? Because the cool thing is it becomes more easeful and more effortless when we treat the root and not the side effect. I actually really do love the metaphor of you can put fires out all day long, but if you don't stop the arsonist, the fires are going to keep popping up. So that is my question, is how do we stop the arsonist? So in this case, the fire is laziness. This laziness fire is popping up, but the arsonist is not feeling interested and not feeling worthy of the things that we want. So how do we, because if we stop that, the fires will stop and we'll be able to grow what we want to grow because the fires aren't going to be burning it down. So for you, again, with this piece, I just want you to stop and think about, like, what do you want to do? So let's say it's start a podcast, write a book, and then do you feel worthy or deserving? And how can you start to see how your take on it is special and unique, and how your voice and your way of doing things is needed in this area? And one of the tricks that we could use is what makes you angry. Like when you hear someone, again, with me, I'd get so angry and frustrated with these influencers and quote unquote coaches telling people they're lazy and telling people they just don't want it bad enough. Because for me, it was not that at all. Like I did want it bad enough, but it was this feeling of, again, I wasn't doing it the way that I wanted to do it, but also like I didn't feel worthy and deserving of having myself take up space in this area. And so I looked at these things, and I am still looking at these things that make me angry. And I'm saying, like, okay, why does that make me angry? And what's the solution that I actually want to give? Because that is your special and unique take to the industry or the area that you are wanting to develop a brand, a voice, or a presence in. And so the cool thing about the brain, and this is something that I really loved learning and was really helpful, is it takes 60 times, 60 repetitions to rewire a neural pathway in the brain. And so once we have that muscle built up, the brain will automatically be that way. So I just want you to think of, you're going to have some legwork at the beginning, but then it's going to become a non-declarative memory where this is just the way you think. So that is the cool part about the brain, is there is some legwork in the beginning, but then it starts to become automatic because our brain is neutral, I think. And it's funny because I'm actually juicing right now. I haven't juiced in a long time and it's been great. But think of our brain like a juicer. It's neutral. Whatever juice you put into that juicer, it's going to pop out that juice. So if I put in an orange and expect apple juice, it's not the juicer's fault. It's what was going into the juicer that was the problem. And our brain is the same way. If we have bad thoughts about ourselves coming in, we're going to put bad results out. But if we have good thoughts about ourselves going in, we're going to put good results out. And so again, it's not that you're the problem. It's that you're putting the wrong juice in the juicer, and you need to look at what you want to put in. And again, the rewiring process in this metaphor would be like going to buy new fruit. We need to get new fruit to put in your juicer, which is you feeling interested and you feeling worthy of the thing that you want to do. So I'm actually going to wrap this podcast up there today because I really think that those tools are enough to get you started and get you going. And if you have things that pop up, you can email me at Michaela at michaela@michaelamae.com, or you can find me on Instagram at miss.michaela.mae, and you can send me a DM. But really start with those. Think of just one goal that you truly want. Again, if you need to, give yourself permission to put it down, just to take that pressure off your shoulders, give yourself a new perspective. And then if you decide ultimately, yes, I do really want these things, ask yourself, how can you build interest to get you started? And this can be something you do completely behind the scenes. No one needs to know. I did not announce this podcast to any of my friends and family for the first 2 weeks that it was out. And then I felt like, okay, it's time to like talk about this on my social media channels. But for the first 2 weeks, it was just between like me, Buzzsprout, and whoever was randomly finding this podcast. And it was amazing. And that really helped me like build the confidence and get the reps in. And now I'm on that second piece of, because I do want this podcast to be successful. I do want to start seeing success. And so now I'm working on the worthy and deserving piece. So start with the interested piece. Then once you build up that muscle, you start getting some momentum going, then start to work on the worthy and deserving piece so you can maintain the success and not just start the, project. You know what I mean? So anyway, that is all I have for you today. It was so good to chat with you today. Again, since I haven't recorded in a couple weeks, I've really been missing you, and I just felt like we haven't talked in a while. So thank you for listening to this episode of the Miss Michaela Mae Show. If you feel so called, I would be so honored if you would rate and review the show or subscribe, whether you're watching on YouTube or you're listening on Apple or listening on Spotify. Let me know what you loved about the episode if you feel so called in the review. And Tank, Willie, and myself will talk to you on the next episode.